What's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, the Leo King, and I'm back with my show, Uncut Astrology, as we're going to go into a deeper aspect of my horoscopes into the week of January 14th through the 20th, 2015. And this is a show I bring in the middle of the week to go over a deeper aspect of what's happening, give my uncut view. Of course, this is not the more traditional horoscopes that I do on the green screen. This is more of me in my office, me raw and uncut of how I feel the astrology is going. And the astrology now is very unique for us to go through. I think that this is big turning points in our lives, even though, as we've talked about in prior horoscopes, we do have that Pluto Uranus square, which I've called it the board game is constantly shifting, where there's a lot of change that is never ending and constant, and it's just a little unpredictable. And we're going to tap into this energy much more now as the nodes in the astrology, the moon's nodes, are starting to make their aspects to this Pluto Uranus square. Now, if you don't know what the moon's nodes are, these are the actual calculations, or the nodes are the invisible knots in space. So imagine these two invisible knots, and they really are the exact, very potent position in the sky that if the sun and the moon were to meet in these spots, there would be eclipses. So we can always know where those spots are, where if everything aligned right, this is where the most potent part of the whole entire connection of the sun, moon, and the earth are. So these spots are constantly turning. That's why the eclipses always happen in, sometimes different signs. Sometimes it'll be in the same sign over like a year and a half period. But, you'll start to see that we're always shifting constantly in the space. And the eclipses are always going to be shifting based off these invisible knots. And these knots are hitting the Pluto Uranus square this week and for the next couple weeks. And honestly, it's actually technically for the next month and a half, I'll be honest with you. But we're going to start it this week with Pluto squaring them. Now, this is all while, we have a lot, and I don't want to, for people who don't know too much astrology, let's just start with this. When you have the most, sensitive spots in astrology being hit by a very intense planet like Pluto, it can sometimes deal with, a lot of intense energy internally that might be sometimes hard to deal with. This is also the planet of great change and transformation. So this is us meeting big changing points in our life. And this is where a lot of our deep stuff is unveiled to us, where we've got to hurdle over it now. We've got to face a fear, overcome. And there's a lot about overcoming fear and being strong to face your fears with Uranus and Aries, which is making an aspect to this, which we do have the South Node on. So this is highlighting your strength. This is highlighting, you coming up with big identifications of yourself, what you want in your life, and overcoming any hard changes there are and really facing them. To me, it's courage. There's a lot of courage coming on the table now in everybody's life. Directions to make big change in. It's like you've got to, it's like there's no more sand on the timer left in many ways. We're at the big change spot. And with Saturn that's entered Sagittarius, it's so interesting to see this is about doors in our lives now opening. And they're serious doors. And it's interesting to see Saturn and Neptune starting to make their square. And we're going to talk a lot about this Uncut, because I think this is what it's all about. But we've also got Mars squaring Saturn through this week. So there's a lot of energy really looking at this big, powerful Saturn in Sagittarius. This is also Neptune and Pisces and Mars getting close to it. And so we're dealing a lot with Pisces and Sagittarius while we're having this extreme, powerful change come in our lives, these new directions to pick, these powerful destined roads. I always call it destiny. Whenever you mix the nodes with anything, there's going to be a destined moment. There's going to be extreme amounts of, sometimes I call it karma. Some people think karma is past life stuff only, but this could also be you, having karmic events that you were prepared for coming now. But it's interesting to see that this is this whole Neptune square Saturn energy, and Mars is tapping into it. And Mars will come through and come out. Mars square Saturn, it's a big transit, but it's not a big boy, I would say. It definitely, I think, forces people to look at their wants, their needs, what they're identifying in their life. And because it's in Pisces, it's like your unconscious parts of yourself are coming out. And this is where you're becoming aware of where you can move better in your life, where you can move more consciously. Especially looking at your beliefs and looking at your perceptions of your life. Are they unconscious perceptions? Are they unconscious beliefs? And are you on the right track to go towards the right doorway? This is mainly doorways opening in our life. And I've been saying this for weeks, but the universe is definitely presenting us with a lot of options. And I think that's the lesson of Saturn and Sagittarius, realizing that there are lots of options and not being restricted or limited to that. Sometimes we can restrict and only see our perception in one way. And now this is us forcing ourselves to change, forcing ourselves to be courageous as we have really powerful doors opening that we've got to really, I think, work for. Because when you mix Neptune in the mix, Neptune to me is the great cocktail in space, because it's like, it'll water it down too, actually. I mean, it's alcohol, it's drugs, it's dreams, it's non-reality. Now, when Neptune and Saturn start to square, which we're going to deal with for the next couple months here, Saturn hates when Neptune squares him because Saturn is a planet of stability and strength and making really strong decisions in your life. Neptune is like, I don't even know what I'm doing, and it floats away like a little fish. Well, guess what? Neptune's bringing that weird unconscious, conscious, watered down energy to Saturn. So it's almost like stability, structure in people's lives. Now remember, Saturn also rules the goat, about climbing the goat. And guess what happens? It becomes a slippery trail when Neptune squares Saturn. It starts to dissolve people's concreted jailways and so forth. So it's almost like this is finally allowing maybe you to get out of situations that you've wanted to, is the positive. The negative is it dilutes situations and makes them more harder to sometimes, concrete them or for decisions to be made. It really can confuse decisions. It can confuse a lot of things. And so this is all confusing stuff now. I'm just going to be honest. Mars is on top of Neptune this week. This is like you having to dip into your own deep spiritual world, your own dreams, and it could feel like you're pulled at all angles. Because what happens when Neptune squares Saturn is now it's all angles coming at you. Saturn always has like a surefire kind of like, we're taking this decision, we're picking this path. But Neptune's this this unconscious collective consciousness, like all over the place ocean, and it's like, wow, how do I make a decision on where in the ocean I want to be? That's like impossible. It's very difficult. It's a wide open universe out there too. So this is definitely a time where people's lives are starting to get pulled and you're being stretched, but not in a kind of like, not in a way we've been stretched. This is a whole different, beast here. This is a very deep spiritual stretch. But I think what it's doing is it's dissolving the doorways that weren't working anymore. And it's now time for you to take some new doorways. And it's almost like you really reach a place where you're like, I don't even need this anymore. I'm like done. I'm out of here. This is us re-identifying our lives with Uranus and Aries. Coming up with new solutions to move forward in our life. This is new partnerships being formed with North Node and Libra. So there's a lot of us, picking doorways and picking the unions that we want, picking the relationships that we want, getting, I hate to say it, but getting out of the ones we don't want to be in anymore either. Uranus and Aries is just like, why even do it if it's not worth it? I think we have to learn true partnership and being fair and just. But at the same time, you can't do what you don't want to do anymore. I think Pluto is part of that, is this is, really making powerful change in your life now. And you having to face it and you having to do it. We have a Mercury Retrograde coming. That's going to actually technically happen on the 21st. But, it's coming in a week. And so if you start to see the events that are coming in our lives, we also got this new moon in Aquarius that's going to light up on Tuesday on the 20th, right when the sun comes into Aquarius. We're having another big 0-degree party. We're having new moons happen at 0 degrees now ever since the solar eclipse on October 23rd. And really, this is powerful because this means that the sun and the moon are following each other for longer periods than they normally hang out. They're hanging out together a long time in the same signs. So ever since this fall or spring, if you're in Australia, this is very rare. This is magic. This is like magical, radical portals in people's lives. I'm calling 2015 the grand finale. If you've ever watched a fireworks show, pew, boo, 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 boo. You know, it could be intense, it could be awesome, it could be dramatic, but I always remember as a kid, I was freaked out on the grand finale. I was like, oh my God. It was like too much sometimes. But then at the same time, I was like, gosh, I can't not look at it, you know? And that's what we're all stepping into. And I feel that it's interesting that this is extreme here, these first couple months with Pluto Uranus square hitting for the last time that we'll see for we're talking probably in all of our lives here. And we're also seeing the nodes hit this. And this is about you know, I always think it's kind of interesting. This is definitely turning lead into gold. But when you're dealing with lead, you deal with lead, you know, and it can not feel like gold sometimes. But these are these new doors opening in your life, and you're going to have to see them. And they're not going to be easy doors. They're going to be very confusing. You're going to have to tap into your gut more than ever. You're going to have to see that just right as you open a door, there's going to be that devil and that angel on your shoulders, you know? Like the unconscious of the conscious is a better way to put it. Not that unconsciousness is bad, but you know, is this an old pattern that you're going to walk down this same doorway? You've already walked in it. It's just different characters, different situations. Or are you going to really pick the door now that's of your higher consciousness, your higher evolution? And honestly, for people doing spirituality out there or anything that's dealing with like really channeling their higher self and their higher consciousness, this is finally the doorway you've been waiting for. Now, it's not easy to get here, but you know, you're here and it's time to walk through it. And I think this is going to span throughout this year, but I think we're just starting to touch it this week. Right before a big retrograde, which is going to have us really look at things differently in our lives. Mercury retrograde in all air signs throughout the year is going to be very powerful. Mercury retrograde in Aquarius is very powerful. It makes you look at weird aspects. It makes you look up and under in places you've never looked before in your life. It makes you rethink things in weird ways. It turns the wheels differently. And when you have Uranus involved with the South Node, it's triggering a lot of Uranian, Aquarian energy in our lives, which is unpredictable, wild stuff. This is where lightning bolts are going to strike in people's lives. New relationships, old ones coming out, big powerful changes coming. And it's just going to be like, bam, thank you, ma'am. Oh my gosh, bam, bam. Starting up for this powerful, you know, fireworks show here, grand finale, which is going to be this year. And there's a lot happening in the astrology. We got Venus also going to oppose Jupiter this time. And I feel that this is just going to be a time to really, look at our relationships, look at these big belief systems, make sure that we're holding on to the right beliefs, make sure that we're holding on to the right people, that they're all in alignment with our true heart's desires, that they're all in alignment with connecting with the vibration that we are, the frequency that we're trying to connect with in our life. So this is like instant coffee of change coming, in my opinion. Going to be happening pretty fast here. So I hope you enjoyed this report, because I think that it's definitely going to be super powerful. And especially when that new moon and Mercury retrograde hits, and we're kind of in the middle of all this, that'll definitely hit next week, Tuesday into Wednesday. And those are going to be some powerful trigger points there. But it's about accepting change. It's about letting change happen. It's about not being afraid of it. It's about allowing the change to happen. It's about surrendering with Pisces. It's about realizing that destiny, karma, spirituality, it's about realizing that the river has taken you here, however you got here, for a reason. And to realize that it's going to take you in the right place. Because if you look ahead, we're going to have Mars and Venus conjunct in Aries this year, which it seems to love to do lately. But very powerful stuff coming this spring here, or fall if you're in Australia, that is going to light us up. We're also getting ready to come out of a big solar eclipse that happened on October 23rd at 0 degrees, and followed a bunch of 0 degree solar not solar eclipses, but new moons, up until we really have that next solar eclipse on March 19th, that's a huge, powerful, life-changing thing. And even though Saturn's out of Scorpio, we had a solar eclipse in Scorpio with Saturn in Scorpio that was imprinted in us for the next 6 months, which we're about 3 months through now. So that means that the next 3 months, there's still that deep Scorpio, intense, kind of, inner feeling around us that kind of can freak us out. It's not that Saturn is coming back into Scorpio, but it's out. And I think this is about your perceptions now, whether you're walk through the right doors, you're ready to face all your fears, you've been vulnerable, you've seen your deep sides of your inner self, and just when you should be able to consciously see the wrong doors to walk through now. But there's desires, and they need to be met. And this is going to test your ego and how it can still learn to be in balance correctly. This is going to definitely be a powerful week here. But I don't think it's bad. I definitely think it's here to bridge this new road for you, this new self, and let the grand finale start. And I think this is all the universe making wild, unpredictable change that constantly, no matter how much we're trying to have footing right now, realize you have Saturn being squared by Neptune now, which does not make the footing easy. And on top of that, we have Pluto and Uranus in a big square, which makes the universe feel like just like constant spinning plates, and you're trying to walk on them, or I'm calling them lily pads. And you're jumping from lily pad to lily pad to lily pad, and there's no such thing as just like sitting in it. It's like you drown. So keep lily padding. But whatever comes into your life right now is not a coincidence. And it's here to help you transition into bigger change, into a better structure in your life, and to help you really identify with who you really are and what you really want. Because everybody's identification of self and masks are starting to go through some really powerful and wild changes. And it is connecting with the right mask with the right mask that I think is starting to happen right now. Thanks so much for all of your support, guys. Honestly, it means the world to me. My community is up, so join it. leokingpremium.ning.com if you want to join my community, make a profile, talk about things. I got my alien videos on there, and I got my deeper astrology where I go deeper into astrology videos. They're free. It's a free community. You don't have to pay a dime. It's all on there. Of course, I got my daily apps. It's on Apple and Android, and you get access to my daily horoscopes, my relationship readings. We're doing text message alerts, and we're adding a bunch of new features with sun signs and so forth. And of course, we got the sun sign horoscopes, but you just wait till you see some of the new things that are coming. Also, Spiritual House Sessions. We got a lot of things going on. But thanks so much for all of your support, and I will see you guys later.